and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman, I'm here with Joe Wood, and we're joined by Stuart Miller from Xero. Stuart, it's really nice to have you here. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Now tell us, Stuart, you've got a very complicated job title I will never remember, so tell us, what do you do at Xero, and how did you end up doing that?
So, my role at Xero, the official job title is I'm the Director of Product Compliance and Industry Engagement, which is one of those long-fangled job titles which means absolutely nothing. But basically my role is to ensure Xero's products comply with current, future, proposed regulation, make sure anything we're planning to do and in the future is already right before it goes out the door, supporting our product teams to build that. And then the industry engagement side of things is working with the likes of HMRC, the ICB, the rep bodies, and to be the voice of small businesses, bookkeepers and accountants where they don't have an audience with people like HMRC. I work closely with our government relations team at Xero as well, so I get to work closely with my colleague Laura Burley, who deals with all the ministerial friends that she's got over there. Well, friends, acquaintances, as we go through there. But yeah, it's a really fantastic role. I've been at Xero for almost 4 years now. I'm a tax accountant by trade, but I like to refer to myself as an escaped accountant. So it's all good fun, and I love every second of being at Xero. When I first joined, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's really about the culture. It's about supporting bookkeepers, small businesses, advisors." I thought, "Oh yeah, this is really good corporate spiel to get it in." But genuinely, every single day you speak to people, and it is the reason they go to work. So it's really, really nice. It's a really, really rewarding place to work.
Wow. So you started off as a tax accountant. I mean, it sounds like you have a very important role, diverse role as well. And I'm trying to think, when you were on the Bookkeepers Podcast a long time ago. I'm trying to.
It was years ago.
Yeah. Was you in a different role then? Because I don't remember you having that role then.
I think the role's evolved
Okay.
a bit. So obviously, where Xero's now, it's in its growth stage. A lot of what we do has been supercharged, so a lot more. I get to wear a lot of different hats now as well. So it's challenging, but no day's the same. So it's really nice to be able to carry on and do the work that I do. So in a nerdy way, I find it really interesting. I'm one of those people where if you can get into the regulations and legislation and go, that's quite interesting. I'm in my happy place with my nose in the book. Big time, yeah.
It sounds like you are almost like an interpreter in the middle, or like you're kind of fighting the corner of the small business against what is being released, what the regulation is doing, and sort of standing in the middle. I wonder what kind of conversations are you having, or right now, what is the big topic of debate?
I mean, I'll go to the one which we've just had the big win on, which is the multiple agents, because I know we mentioned this when we were back on the podcast before about the importance of multiple agents. And the fact that we heard from Craig Ogilvie earlier today, the fact that HMRC listened. They listened to the bookkeepers, they listened to those who are actually going to be doing the work. So I know it sounds silly, but for years, that's been a big pet project to get through. And now at the moment, it's things such as the upcoming E-Invoicing regulations, how that's going to impact bookkeepers as well. If you've got people cross-border trade, are we looking at potentially having to bring in E-Invoicing early? Because we've seen, to be very nerdy, the EU have signed off a directive called VAT in the Digital Age, or VIDA. And that's basically by 2030, most EU countries are going to be business-to-business transactions must be via e-invoicing. So obviously, UK not being in the EU anymore, we may have something. So at the moment, that's where I'm at the moment. E-invoicing takes up quite a lot of my time, and proposed and future regs where we're going with that.
And this is the thing, the landscape is changing all the time. And we heard Kate Hayward talking about e-invoicing today, and it was very obvious that no one really, I think 4 people put their hands up to say that they were using it. And we need to keep up. This is why events like today are so important, because we need to hear these things for the first time, and then we ask questions to say, what is it, how's it going to impact us? Because we are in a space where we have HMRC, and then we have the EU and the geopolitical landscape, and then we have AI and software and automation. And we think that bookkeepers started just to checks and balances and debits and credits and geek out on spreadsheets, and our life
long gone are those days. Long gone.
It's long gone. So how does a bookkeeper of the future stay up to date with the things that you've got your finger on the pulse of?
I think it's really tricky. We've always said the phrase we hate hearing is, I'm just a bookkeeper, I'm only a bookkeeper. And even the list of things that you just said then, it just shows so much more of what you have to do in this profession to keep up to date and offer maximum value to your clients. I suppose, again, as always, your networks are always really important. The one thing I love, well, there are many things I love about the bookkeeping sort of profession, but everyone looks out for everyone else. There's conversations, there's none of this competitive rubbish. It's not a case of, this is successful, I'll keep that quiet. It's a case of, this is successful, have you tried this? And it's a conversation, like you said, like events like today. And again, it is a responsibility of software vendors to provide on that knowledge and that information to people. It's up to HMRC, it's up to the rep bodies to make sure they keep up to date with it. But I suppose the best of advice I would say is keep up to date with what means things to your client base for now. And if you think, oh, well, now I'm sort of broadening my practices, I've got these sort of international businesses who are going to do cross-border trade, that's when the things like the e-invoicing come in. But even then, it's understanding what benefits it can bring for you and your business earlier. Kate mentions there's some proposed regulations in Australia that if you use e-invoicing, you can elect to have your invoice paid within 5 days. And we know for the clients that we look after as bookkeepers, cash flow is king. And if we can get our clients paid faster just by having this knowledge and this technology in place, it's going to allow us to have a little bit more free time to keep up to date on whatever's going to come next for us to have to sort of cross that hurdle.
I feel like bookkeeping is going to look very different. So there's potentially people who have joined the profession decades ago, like us, and felt like things will be very stable. This is what it will look like for a long time, and you might expect like a little update here and there. But actually, there's been a rapid change over the last 3 or 4 years. I feel like COVID was this turning point for so much about the way business is done online and what business can now look like. If you said you're a tax accountant by training, if you were running a practice right now, what would you be focusing on?
Well, first of all, I'd have a bookkeeping department straight away. I think the reason as well, like you said, especially during COVID, where everything expanded, I think it just goes to show the aptitude that the bookkeepers have to support that small business, because the profession's evolved because of bookkeepers saying, and I can help you with this, and they upskill in that area, and I can help you with this, and that's why they are the trusted advisor of that small business. And one of the things that I'm doing in my AI Virtual Summit on Thursday, one of the things in the presentation I say is, it's all good having these AI tools, but no one's accountable for interpreting that information. You as bookkeepers have to know how to not only understand and interpret this information, but pitch that to your clients at the right level, and it's that human element that needs to be there. So if I were in practice today, I'd be, right, we need to get our bookkeeping department, we need to upskill, we need to make sure we've got the right software in place. But I need to make sure I've got my strategy of where I want my practice to grow. Can
you give us a bit of a sneak preview into what's happening in your AI talk later in the week?
So it's really about, obviously I love a pun, so it's called AI, I'm Not Just a Bookkeeper. And it's just looking at ways that we can start bringing AI into our learning and development as bookkeepers, things we need to consider. I think the big thing with AI, and to not give away the talk on Thursday, is I think everyone thinks AI has got to be this big thing. You've got to bring it all in at once, and that's not what it's about. It's making a little change, trial it. Don't just do one thing though. Don't just go, oh, I've done it, it didn't work for this client, I'm done. Give it time to, like with every practice, every process we've had, it takes time to refine and go through it. If anyone uses chatbots like ChatGPT, or they use Gemini, or they use it in Google, it takes a long time to understand the prompts that best work to get the results out that you want. So I'd say, in AI, it's a fantastic opportunity for us as bookkeepers in this profession to be able to see what added value can we give to our clients. And the key thing is, what jobs do we do at the moment that don't provide significant value to us or our clients? And that's not saying that a job takes a long time but we get paid a lot of money for it, that's great. But those jobs that maybe we have to do but they take too much time out of our busy schedules, what can we do to make life better with those? And there are 3 things that we're doing at Xero, which I'll cover on the session on Thursday, that covers the 3 little changes we've made that Xero users can use to maybe try these tools out, see how you get on with your clients with those as well.
I think it really is about a mindset shift. So I think when we started in the profession, I remember my uncle saying to me, in good times and bad times, people will always need a bookkeeper or an accountant. If there's no money or if there's loads of money, you're always going to need someone. Like death and taxes is always certain. And when we come into this profession, we pass exams and we get a tick in the box to say, you can do this piece of work. With software and the advancements of AI, there's not going to be a certificate that says you can have, you're okay to have this conversation, you're allowed. I've had conversations today with people saying, can I really have a chat with somebody about their cash flow forecast? What if I forecast it wrong? And I'm like, it's a forecast. You're having a conversation you're holding them accountable to sitting down and thinking, are we going to earn more money this month or less? Are we going to continue paying for this? Or are we going to stop it? There's not an exact black-white result. And I think this is a mindset shift that we have to move into. We came into a world that was very exact, to a penny balance. And now we're going into this new world where we're going to be stepping into, let's just have a chat about this. What could this mean? Doesn't mean it's going to be. So I think there's a lot of people in our space that will feel nervous around this. What would you say to people that are going to start embracing AI around a world that's always been so exact?
I think it's a really difficult shift in that sort of, actually, that headspace where you go, it's to the penny. We've all been there when we used to have to manually tick banks and we were like 3 pence out and had to go back and tick it again in a different colour. Those days, hopefully, are behind a lot of us. And I think it is really scary. I'm not going to take away that it's an easy thing or an easy shift in mindset, but I think that's why you try little and often and try things, have those conversations. But also, if you're worried about passing on guidance or advice that you're not 100% comfortable with, that's when you start using your networks. And you can start saying, hey, I've got this client. I think the interpretation of their cash flow figures is this. This is what I predict the next 6-9 months to be. Could I have your thoughts on it? You can even chat to the ICB and say, look, this is my interpretation. Do you agree? Because the ICB's got an incredible compliance team behind them. So there are things and questions you can raise. I think it's just a case of, if you are a member, utilize those resources. One of those things through professional membership that people never think they can do is just pick up the phone. And if you do, it's so much better. There have been times in my career where I phoned up the CIOT and gone, I think I'm an idiot. Am I an idiot? And they say, yes, this is how you do it. So make sure you utilize the resources you've got with you, those professional qualifications you've done. And I suppose the other thing is, back yourself. I know it's really easy to say from the outside, but you've already done your exams. You're already knowledgeable of the business and your clients. So back yourself, because you're awesome. You know exactly what you're doing. You are the pathway to business growth. So by having those conversations to start with, and even if it's just little things to start with and say, hey, I've looked at your cash flow and it looks like in 9 months' time you might be in trouble if you keep having this very interesting subscription to something you shouldn't be subscribing to, which is always an interesting one because I know bookkeepers see the best things in people's bank recs and claim them as business expenses. It's the best.
I'd love to explore the AI topic a little bit more because it sounds like this is like something you're very excited and passionate about, and it's definitely something that we're seeing more and more in our community. What are some of the real life applications of AI at the moment for bookkeepers?
I think scheduling and planning, if you can find a good tool that can do that for you, I find it so much easier. I start my day using AI tools, and as we know, our calendars are rammed these days because since the advent of working from home, which I love, don't get me wrong, but you're now more accessible. It's not a case someone's going to just stick their head around the corner and go, oh, hi, got a quick question. Everything's scheduled in. So I use scheduling tools to make sure I know exactly where I'm going. If I want to go and do CrossFit, doesn't look like I do, I love CrossFit. But if I go, great, I can go and do a CrossFit session because I've got this gap, I know it straight away. I can summarize my inbox using AI tools, say, right, you get commands in place. So I go, right, this has come through from my boss, this has come through from HMRC, these are the priority ones, and gets it to identify what are my key tasks for the day. I suppose the other one as well is, for example, my daughter, I think I've said before, she uses Xero to maintain her pocket money. And because she can, genuinely, she does. And then if she goes to the shop and buys a toy, she scans the receipts and it comes off and everything. It's absolutely incredible that she does it. Everyone loves a Xero subscription for a 7-year-old to do it. But even things such as sort of just ask Xero. And I said, again, she's 7, I said, just ask it to say, how much have you spent on sweets, or how much have you spent on toys? And so she sat there and go, oh, Daddy, I spent £3 on sweets last month. I was like, yeah, that's a lot of sweets. Maybe we should stop. And I know it sounds silly, but it's tools like that. And I said, just ask Xero if you've got it in practice. Tell me all of my invoices that are overpaid by 90 days, have not been paid by 90 days. Great, I've got that there in one place. I can even have it on my phone on WhatsApp. And these are the tools I think are going to be really, really helpful for people in the bookkeeping profession to have that instant answer, because we know that clients will phone us. And because we are their trusted business advisor, they'll say, oh, guys, can you tell me why have I not got money in the bank? What's outstanding? And rather than saying, oh, I can come back to you in 10 minutes and scroll through all of your account system, you can use the AI tool and it will tell you straight away, oh, you've got these outstanding, it's Mr. Stevens again, he's always a late pay, you should probably send him a prompt invoice. Do you want me to do that now? Bink, and I've done it just using Just Ask Xero.
Wow. And the security that bookkeepers worry about around that, just as it, because we could, in theory, pull out P&L balance sheet, upload it to ChatGPT, ask it to tell us some insights and things, but obviously it's someone else's data. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So how is Just Ask Xero, and will that be the kind of thing, will it do interpretations of the data in the future so we can ask it questions and say, what can you tell us about this?
In a secure manner.
Yeah.
So that the numbers and the information you use for your clients is only in your Xero space. It's not used for learning. It's not like ChatGPT. If you put your clients' figures in ChatGPT, which you should never do, and if anyone ever has, don't tell your clients, but maybe go and look at your cybersecurity and everything now.
Yes.
But in the future, you will be able to have those projections. But again, it's all about little and often with AI. We've got these tooltips and this sort of assistance within the product. In the future, that is a direction where people will want JAX to go. That's the direction we would see AI going. But it's got to make sure it's in that safe and secure environment. And as I would say to bookkeepers, and I think sort of Kate said it earlier in her presentation, is remove the hype behind it. And the key is, and again, it sounds scary, again, because it's all changed, to say, you've got to check that these guys are going to look after your data. You've got to check that what they're using their training module. But instead of you having to do the research, just ask that software vendor, just ask that app which you're using, do you keep your data secure? Can you tell me what security measures you have in place? And they should be able to tell you that straight away, and then that will give you comfort that your data and your client's data, most importantly, is secure.
I think the next we were talking about trends for the future when we were in Canada last week, and we were talking about how AI is part of the future, but then following on from that, we need to be talking about security, and I think that this is going to become a really big theme in the bookkeeping space, and we might have more people talking to us maybe next year at the Bookkeepers Summit about cybersecurity and what you need to know as a bookkeeper.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because if you now think as well the direction of travel as well that Companies House are going, where you've got to have identity verification with those companies, and in the future when they go to software-only filing, you need to have AML and IDV in place for all of those. So if you're thinking of using all these digital tools and cybersecurity, you've now got all this personal information you should have with your AML anyway, but if that's now all stored in your systems, not in a file, and I think that's the one thing when I speak to bookkeepers, they say, we used to have the paper file, which is a case of driver's license, passport, utility bill, and it's in the file, it's in the cupboard, it's fine. So if people break in, they've got to take all your files. Now your data's stored digitally. So cybersecurity is really key, and I know sort of the ICB have done some work with colleagues to look at cybersecurity going forward, and I think data will become the biggest commodity and the biggest risk, but at the same time it promotes the biggest opportunity for bookkeepers to be able to give those insights. As always with everything, you have to go in with caution. You've got to use that data as you would it with your classic paper files. For those who have been in the business for 20 years, remember the beautiful fold up pink or yellow or blue files. You wouldn't leave that on the train. So you wouldn't leave that unencrypted, you wouldn't leave it on a pen drive somewhere if people still use pen drives. So you've just got to be safe with that data, but it's just common sense. And what I'd say to that as well, there's so many free resources from online, LinkedIn courses as well, where you can just get the bare bones of cybersecurity. 9 times out of 10, that is going to be sufficient for the size of your practice that you're in. But never be afraid to ask questions. Yes, there's always the cost element of cybersecurity that people worry about, but I always sit there and go, if you can do sort of foundational cybersecurity and checks and best practice, most of those are free and just your own common sense. Make sure you've got those in place. And then as big data continues to become the thing that we need to look at, that will allow us to make sure we keep our clients' data safe as we go.
Lovely. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We've really enjoyed
No,
this.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in. We've got lots more interviews coming up at the Bookkeepers Summit. We'll see you next time for another episode of the Bookkeepers Podcast.